Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. So just a brief outline of what we're going to discuss today. Leadership is very dependent on context. The context within which we're leading our initiative is going to dictate the tool that's most important for us to use in that time frame. So we're all leaders of our own initiatives, no matter how big or small, and an initiative well-led is going to lead to impactful change. So I'm going to share with you the context of my journey, and the tool that was most useful to me was being able to understand the various generational differences and being able to bring them together to function as a team. So as part of this, I'm going to discuss the infamous millennial group, which I belong to, and then also my chairman's group, which is the baby boomer group. And kind of those are the extremes of age that we face due to time constraints. And so we're going to look at helping each generation realize the strengths that they bring to the table and being able to unify them together to a team that actually fulfills program mission and produces results. So just before we get started, can I have a show of hands on how many junior faculty in the audience? Awesome. And then senior mentors? Great, so we have a great mix. So a little bit more about my context. A couple years ago, I took over with my chairman, and our residency program was facing some struggles. There was a lack of faculty-resident engagement that was mostly a reflection of a lot of change that our department was going through on a greater level. And also we had a handful of ACGME citations, which is the usual thing, right? So that was the challenge that I was faced with. And so the goals were to increase this engagement that was key to help the residency program improve, and hoping that that engagement would improve overall attending and resident wellness. Back to Sue's point, doing what you love really does help with the burnout, and so for a bunch of academic attendings, being involved in the program was hopefully going to help that. And then those two things would overall help us improve patient care. The whole point of GME is producing better population health by improving patient care with better teaching. So with that context in mind, and with the goals with the actions of being able to need to produce a vision and a mission consistent with our values, I started to look around at the things that I needed to do. And to engage all of my team members and bring them together, I had to understand where they came from. And so our boomer generation is 55 to 73, and millennial generation is 23 to 38. And so we're gonna kind of look into the way that Hayden Shaw discusses these generations. So in his book called Sticking Points, he reviews the historical context for every generation and helps us understand why we approach problems differently, and then also helps us leverage those differences into strengths. So the first question that was asked and reviewed in the research was, how do you view your generation as being unique? So what would you think the millennials would say? Obviously technology use, being able to leverage technology for efficient change, also being more liberal, civic-minded, open-minded, thinking about the population as a big group. Baby boomer response was work ethic, respectful, morals, values, loyalty. And that was definitely something that was very important to that generation, you know, having a strong and loyal following as opposed to a more unstable one. Now, there was one thing that all generations had in common, even the silent ones and Generation X. They all thought they were the smarter generation. So this was gonna be a major issue, right? So moving on, they said, how do you view yourselves at work? And this is really the meat of the issue for us, because how you see yourself at work it essentially correlates to the strengths that you think you bring to the table, right? So millennials said, we make friends, we're sociable. And I bolded these two. We think outside the box and we're open to new ideas. This is how they view themselves. For the boomers, the response was, we have a strong work ethic and we're able to handle a crisis. We do not crack under pressure. This is very important. So coming in as a junior faculty, you want to be able to resonate. You want to be able to show that you have values similar with your leader if you're being perceived, you know, in the traditional manner. So ability to handle a crisis and take on responsibility versus open to change and on the edge with new developments. So let's dive in one more slide into millennials just because we confuse everyone. So flat corporate structure was definitely something that was favored in millennial generation. Having kind of layers of management that don't have a very clear added value is not popular with this generation. Management transparency is another very important thing. So if somebody's in a certain title, what are they doing? What are they bringing to the table? How can I help? Immediate feedback, which is not necessarily always positive, but as long as it's feedback that comes from a place of good intention. And then having meaningful work and also being team-oriented. In this generation of social media, the team orientation is definitely augmented by the social media environment. So with all those differences in mind, you might think, how might these two generations interact? There are obviously going to be differences between the traditional view and the newer generation coming into the workplace. So the question for me was, I had a lot of generational gaps. How did I bring them together as a team, residents and attendings, to participate in a way that fulfilled our program's vision? How do you leverage these differences into organizational strengths that actually produce measurable results? So the key thing that Hayden Shaw discusses in his book, and that I found to be true in practice, is recognizing the grounds on which generations are more likely to diverge. So they're more likely to make decisions in a different manner. They're more likely to communicate differently, give feedback differently, and look at social events like meetings within the workplace very differently. So how do you make them come together on this ground? So this busier slide is worth dissecting, and essentially, there are a few things that I learned on the job that I wish I knew at day one. So decision making. Traditionally in the boomer generation, there is definitely a way for everybody to participate and make their voice heard, but the genuine feeling underneath it is that the boss is ultimately the one who makes the decision. Millennials take more of a team approach where everybody is giving their opinion, but what happens if you're actually not able to reach a consensus situation? So ultimately, then the boss can make the decision. So I think one piece of practical kind of experience that helped me was I would always go to my chairman and senior leadership with a very well thought out plan, but I very much verbalized that I respected that they were ultimately the boss and that ultimately things were their decision. And that shows respect for the hierarchy, because people who've been through life and have a lot of experience deserve to have that recognized, and they deserve to know that you see all that they bring to the table, and that goes a long way. Communication is another thing. We don't mind text messages and WhatsApps and quick communication, all for the sake of efficiency, because we're the work-life balance folks. We want things to happen quickly so that we could get home, right? But some things require a face-to-face meeting. If you're talking to your chairman about something that has to do with budget, even if it's a small budget element, or something that you feel they're not following you through via text, schedule 10 or 15 minutes to go have that conversation face-to-face. It goes a long way, and it's very meaningful to them. The next one is meetings. So meetings in previous times were definitely considered to be the main information hub before there was a lot of instant messaging and emails and things like that. It's also a place of political opportunity. So I'm on the physician advisory board for the hospital. It's not always an interactive experience, but I'm there with the president of the hospital and with the CMO. Me being there physically and showing dedication to my department is a chance for FaceTime. Our natural inclination is, if it's not interactive, then it's not fun. Well, not everything's fun. Sometimes you just need to go and be there, right, and show your dedication. And that definitely goes a long way. It puts you in front of the most important people. And likewise, my chairman's definitely somebody who is an early adopter, and he kind of tries to make the meetings more interactive now. But if they're not, they're just not, you know? And then the last thing is feedback. So millennials definitely like immediate feedback. We don't want to make a mistake for 1 or 2 months before we get to finally hear in a formal review that we're making a mistake, right? Sometimes feedback is not positive, and that's fine too, but the mechanism of delivery is what makes it the most well received. So if we know that it's coming from a place of good intent, then definitely that's the most important thing, more so than the style of it. But then just also recognize that previously, annual performance reviews and quarterly meetings were the ways that people gave feedback. So if you want more of it, just ask. And that is definitely very helpful and has helped me stay on track with my chairman. So just to kind of, this isn't projecting very right, but I'll just tell you the main points from that slide were FaceTime, political opportunity, even in boring environments, trying to keep meetings interactive if possible, and giving immediate feedback to millennials. So back to the context of our own leadership challenge, how do you take that great theory and actually put it into practice? We're all anesthesiologists, so we're all about results and practicing things, right? Not just theory. So to be able to bring a group of people together, understanding where they come from is not enough. You also need to tell them where you're going and how you're going to get there. So in Simon Sinek's words, what is a vision? It is the ability to see the future world of results, tangible results, that would be if every person woke up and pursued their why. If every academic anesthesiologist woke up and did what they love, where would our program be? Okay? For me, I wanted to take them to Bora Bora. That was my vision. We were going to have this great program, right? The next question was the mission. That's great that you want to go there. How are you going to get there? Are you going to walk? Is it private jet? Is it canoe? Is it airplane? What is your strategy? So providing clarity and set direction is the mission's job. It can be so well defined that it feels like a strategy. I would argue that it really should most definitely feel like a strategy. You gotta show people, you gotta show your chairman that you've dissected this down step by step. You're not just dreaming, you have a plan. And the only way to be able to get $40,000 of budget for faculty development, the way I did, was to really have a plan and show your chairman where the money is going. If they don't know, they're not gonna pay. So how did we kind of do this? So we had a situation where we needed everyone to pitch in, and we needed to know where we were gonna go. So we sat down with our residents and we had an open town hall meeting. Remember, millennials all like to participate. So we made sure that the loud ones and the quiet ones all had a chance to participate. I like to participate, it's my generation, so I made sure that my residents were able to participate. So one-on-one meetings, town hall meetings, internal surveys, ACGME surveys, and then we even brought in residents from other departments to eliminate the power differential and kind of survey them for what they wanted. So this vision is now engaging the key stakeholders who are your trainees. They feel like they've had a chance to contribute. The next step was taking 17 pages, literally A4 typed, of ideas and trying to turn it into something bite-sized that we could manage. So this was where the program director-driven mission part came in. All of these ideas were divided into various categories. Was it academics, wellness? Was it resident professional development? We kind of divided it into those focus areas and then advertised them out to all the trainees and all the attendings. We said, these are the areas that need work. What do you feel matches your skill set, and what opportunity do you want to grow? We gave them non-clinical time. We gave them an extra $2,500 for conference attendance, and what we asked for in return was tangible program improvement, presentation at a regional or national meeting, and also an idea for how to continue to inform that resident-driven mission for a cycle of continuous improvement. Everybody had a defined role, and everybody was expected to do something tangible for the program. So the final thoughts that I have is that we're truly all leaders of our own initiatives. No matter what the initiative is, it's important to do it wholeheartedly and to do it right. There's no such thing as going through something very quickly. Every step needs to be perfect, and the thinking needs to be clear, and it needs to be presented clearly to your boss. If they assign you a small task, I wouldn't say, hey, that's a small task, why are you giving that to me? You've just started out. Take the task and do it right. If it resonates with you, as Sue said, then it's worth the effort. Do it right, do it with love, do what you're told, show respect, and it'll be really easy to climb the ranks, even with the most traditional of bosses. So I'm gonna leave you with the question of which type of leader do you want to be? It sounds generic, but it's truly very important to think about that question every day and use the tools that pertain to your environment at any given moment. So the take-home point is I have a very famous quote from every generation, and all I've got to say is I truly hope, whoops, all I have to say is I'm truly happy that Gen Z has risen to the challenge, because now I can pick on them. In just another year or two, they'll be in the workplace. So thank you very much.